Nice. Sometimes there's a man for his time and place, and his name was David Lynch. Hello, world, to another episode of The Conversations with me, Carlz. The only show, as far as I know of, where someone tries to rethink what they say in one language and then not translating it, but making a reinterpretation into another language, however you want to call it, right? So, in today's episode, I did something special or I attempted to do something special for my Spanish episode, where I was trying to show scenes or extracts from David Lynch's Eraserhead, right? The old movie from the old American artist who sadly passed away recently. I wanted to do it for several reasons. One, I love David Lynch. Two, I love this movie. And three, even though I've seen it a million times, well, not a million times, maybe 1,000. And even though I love it, I've never been sure whether I understand it or not. And that was like the basis of this strange experiment of trying to see it and perhaps, well, it's like a proof of concept actually. Hopefully it would bring either some new ideas in me or in someone that could have been watching it. Of course, as I said, this is all a work in project, work in process. So it didn't really work as I planned, right? So the idea was to look at the movie, look at its general imagery, and sort of try between several people to find out what it is about, right? So for general comprehension, Eraserhead is just this delirium from David Lynch, right? That has a lot of imagery. That's a word that's gonna pop up a lot. It has a lot of imagery in a sense that it's supposed to mean something, right? But since it's a dream, some sort of like a creative artistic dream, you're never really sure what it is about. So if you ever heard interviews or I don't know, any sort of type of David Lynch talking about his work, he always came back. I forgot that he died. He always came back to the idea of, okay, I'm gonna have this idea that it could often be a dream, right? And I'm just gonna put it in paint, in, I don't know, like movies or anything. He was a visual artist, right? So everything he would imagine, he would put into images. And to me, as the person that I am, I don't want to call myself anything, but it always something happens to me, because when you try to interpret a dream, right, the moment you translate it into images, it sort of gets the meaning of the image itself, right? So for example, in diving straight into Eraserhead, in Eraserhead there are common interpretations of the movie that they are all mostly related to the obvious imagery, there's a baby, there's a couple, right? There's a conflict between them, there is adultery, there's a bunch of things that are obviously in the movie, right? But the movie itself, as it is made and as it is portrayed, it's never a straightforward answer, right? So is this space for interpretation? Is this basically the same thing with an sort of like an artist makeover over it? Like in my Spanish version, I reflected over the fact that you could do like a Hallmark movie version of Eraserhead, right? I don't know, the guy who has a crappy job and he has some romantic issues with his partner. They have how can you say it, like an illegitimate son or whatever. Like you can do like a straightforward, regular movie with the same concept as Eraserhead, but that's not how it goes, right? And what makes this exercise so interesting comes straight from the beginning, right? Here, well, I guess some people might just listen to it, listen to what I'm saying, right? Hey, Gaston, not from the Beauty and the Beast. So the first image you see in Eraserhead is this famous image of this sort of like I don't really know. I wouldn't know how to call him, but it's some sort of like rotting, zombie-like, decaying corpse, right? Who is looking through a window, and it sort of like activates some sort of levers, and sort of like spark like this, like sperm-like like thing that comes out from Henry's, the protagonist's mouth, right? So basically, what I always thought about this is that it immediately set up the beginning and the end of the movie as this sort of delirium that comes from the protagonist, right? So what does that do in actuality, right? Or like in practical sense when you look at the movie? Immediately makes that everything that is inside the movie is not necessarily what it looks like it is, right? It's a simple exercise. So if I take images and I modify them slightly with like this rather bizarre but like nonetheless modifications to the images, immediately it's something else, right? Immediately you can create any image that you want on your head, which is part of the appeal of the whole now known as Lynchian type of movie making, right? Or art making. And why is this curious to me? Because I never liked the straight up like interpretation of Eraserhead that everything is like sexual and everything is about like Henry being like doing it all for the nookie and everything. Like for example, here's the next scene. We see this sperm like creature like falling into water, right? So the obvious interpretation is like, oh, this is like, I don't know, the egg being fertilized, right, by its sperm, and like thus creating the baby, whatever, right? But I don't want to say that's a simple vision of the movie, but I want to say it's rather reductionist. Like, I don't know if everything that Lynch puts into the movie works for that only objective. You know what I mean? Like, let's move the movie forward a little bit. Something that something that has really like stayed with me since I saw the movie for the first time, right? Henry lives in this sort of like it's not post-apocalyptic, but it's like a post-industrial like capitalist nightmare, right? Like everything is gloomy and you have like a bunch of concrete shit and like leftover like industry or whatever, right? To me, why is this interesting? Because if I'm assuming that David Lynch is recreating some idea or dream that he had about a dude that has some sort of sexual problems, right? And then I see this, I'm like, how could this not be like a critique to something else, right? How does this function with the rest of the movie? And that is when I sort of put some of my own intake and interpretation on it. And as someone that often talks about capitalism and its like many flaws, right? Like to me, it's impossible to not see this movie and start adding like little snippets of my own brain into whatever Lynch is saying here, right? So even though it might be obvious to say that Eraserhead is just about sexual pulsions or tensions from the protagonist, right? It also might be simplistic that it's to say like this is just some neoliberal critique, right, from an artist's point of view. It can also be a simplistic way of looking at it. But as you start progressing through the movie, right, and you get all of these images that just disrupt whatever normalcy might be, and this is sort of like moving forward the conclusion that I had. I like it when he steps on the mud. Sort of like moving forward the conclusion that I had in my original episode, which is like the genius of it is that all of these places and images, they serve as like spaces for you to fill in. So the appeal of a non-straightforward narrative here is that it gives the power to you, right? It's like I love that shot in the factories. It's like Tolkien used to say, right? You get the work or whatever, you put it out there. You put the work out there, and then it's the people's or like the spectator. It's not responsibility, but it's the spectator sort of like desire. Like if you liked it, you should have a desire to understand what it is about, and that is the same reason why sometimes movies like this and most of Lynch's work, there are many people that hate them, right? They hate his work because they cannot live in this parenthesis that he is giving you to live in, right? We see Henry, and like we can have like so many ideas, like he's like a classic exploited proletariat worker, like by the way he dresses, right? By the way he dresses, by the way he behaves. It's so funny. It's like so curious, but at the same time, it's more stimulating than anything, right? These first shots like are great, because they are determining. Yeah, that's a word. The dream space itself, right? But you cannot give full flexibility to whatever you are showing, because the moment you decide to show something, it becomes a language, right? Like I cannot pretend that he's not walking through hallways, that he's not looking at a mirror, that he's not looking at letters. Like this is not space for interpretation on the image itself, right? So for example, see, if we move forward, right? We see the love interested from across the hall. Is she a prostitute, like an adulterer? That's a word too. Whatever the case, right? You see, for example, his apartment. Let me see if I can catch it. I always like Henry's apartment, the design of it. The design of it seems to come straight from an artist, right? Why does he have a pile of shit on top of his drawers? Like, it can't be anything and everything, just part of just this one big meaning. These are all like little pieces or snippets of something that we could never see. And I like how Lynch always kept the mystery, whether he knew it or not. Like I remember this story he talked about, I think it was from Twin Peaks The Return, where you have this character like that has a hole on its face. Like it doesn't have a face, its head is just like a hole, and they are like chasing another character. I don't remember which character it was, right? And the whole point of it is like this is one of the few occasions where I actually witnessed Lynch talking about whatever he was doing, right? And he said like, no, once I just had this dream once that I think it was him and his brother, like we were being chased by a faceless person. And like he says something that it always stuck with me when he said like, I don't remember exactly the images of it, but I remember the feelings of it. And that's important. Like he remembered being afraid, he remembered being like scared, being chased by this weird creature. But like as someone who loves interpretation, that's why I do these small self-serving videos. It's amazing to think that, right? Like, you think about the process. I dream that I was being chased by a creature with no face, and I don't remember exactly the details, but I remember how I felt. How the fuck do you put that into an image that works not only to show whatever you were thinking or dreaming about, but also what you're feeling at the moment? But because that's your ultimate objective, right? As an artist, to show or like to try to convey to other people what you were thinking. So you think about that and you think about this image, and it's impossible not to think about like, oh, it's just David Lynch, like I was dreaming, and like of course there was a pile of shit on top of his drawer. The end, right? It could be just that. Hey, Gallina. But at the end of the day, as I said, as I dive deeper and deeper into the movie, and as I keep exploring its possible topics, could you even call them topics if it's just like a imagery out of like a delirium? Could they even be topics? If not, they're just images, right? Like thought generation images. It's like funny to think about it, because at the end of the day, we want to understand what we're looking at. So let's jump forward a little bit more, right? We can like see absolutely any shot on this movie and sort of explore whatever its mean could be, right? And I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that behind the camera was probably Lynch, just like just being him, right? He's wonderful him. Like I saw recently this interview with I think it was Naomi Watts, like one of like a common collaborators, right? And like I was I always think about like she's saying like, oh, he was the sweetest guy, like he was the sweetest guy, and like he would give you no directions. He would just tell you like, this is what I want to happen, right? And they would be like, okay, like you would do it and he would be happy. Like, you can imagine like Lynch behind this, like, okay, give me like a piece of dirt with some shit in it, and they'd be like, ha ha ha. It would be like just like that, right? But let's move over to like the other big piece of a movie. Oh, I wanted to use that shot, but I couldn't find it. Hey Claudio, I'll do a chat break in a little bit. That shot, I love the shot from the girlfriend. But let's introduce the middle part of the movie, or like it's not even the second act, right? When he goes to meet his partner's parents or whatever, right? This is the part of the movie, perhaps the only part of the movie that makes straight up sense, right? Like these are the girl's parents. They're gonna talk about the illegitimate baby. Like it's gonna be awkward. This is like the straight part of the movie. Like without this, or without making this weird, even though it already is, the movie could be just like make no sense at all. This is the part of the movie where I think in any dream you sort of start making sense and have a minimum idea of what the movie is about, right? Go meet the parents. Like the dad is like this weird guy that like does some strange like what do you call this, like game bird? They have like a grandma that doesn't move, whatever, right? I don't fight with this scene. I don't fight with this scene at all. This is just mundane, whatever, like mundane black and white broken people, right? Just being broken people. Though this scene does give like a little bit of a clue of what makes always people talk about the sexuality in Eraserhead, right? When the mom sort of like I think she gives a leak to Henry at some point. It's so strange, right? Everything is strange, but this part is what makes the plot of the movie being basically a plot, right? Let's take a little bit of a shot break to read Claudio. I've always seen ERASERHEAD as a massive metaphor for fatherhood and the oppression of family life. The obvious monster baby images as uncomfortable family depiction. Only marriage is oppressive, and even the radiator is a pressure device where he can see his weird escape fantasy. The lady singing. I wish the movie while waiting for my second baby, and it hit me hard. So, thank you for sharing that, and that's an important point. And I think it's gonna happen in any movie. It's gonna happen on my next episode. My next episode, we talked in Spanish about Emilia Perez. So there's a lot, gonna be a lot of that on how your own experiences changed the movie. And it's funny because I was talking about at the beginning, right? How this movie in particular, to me, the beginning, it gives this free range, right? The beginning sets up the movie as a dreamlike delirium, and it leaves you to interpret whatever you want, right? So even though I can see the same images about reproduction and sexuality, right? Or like my friend Claudio here in the chat, who is a father, right? He has that perspective, and of course, it's a valuable thing about the movie that it allows it to do that, right? So while most people can see sexuality in those images, Claudio can see fatherhood, and to me, I just see, and this is what I mentioned in my Spanish version, right? I only see the discomfort of living in this sort of mundanity. The only thing that I can be empathetic about, right, as not being a father, as not being like something that is like fucking around and like having babies whatsoever, like or like who is not part of that life, I can understand, or not understand, I can have empathy with the discomfort of the movie. And that is something that you can achieve by just being creative, right? Everything in Eraserhead seems to work that way. I will not remember to I will remember to mention it when I talk about Emilia Perez and how there are certain type of imagery that is so sort of pedantic in a way, right? Like condescending, that you feel like a moron, like that, like they're giving you this stuff without you having the opportunity to make it your own, which is completely the opposite of whatever Lynch does. Here's like the mom, like the mom has this sort of like a weird spasm when like the chicken, the little chicken, is cut open, and like it's so strange. And one of the things that Lynch always does like great in any of his works is that any sort of element of the work that takes you out of reality seems to be perfectly placed. Like this is not easy to understand. Like, why is the mom having a fit, like while they are trying to eat dinner, right? This is not easy to understand. This is not a giveaway understanding, but it's stimulating enough for you to sort of have an opportunity to think about it. Oh, I just noticed the chat is cut off. There you go. And it's just great. But immediately after that, right, they go about let me see if I can catch that's the scene where the mom licks him, which is one of the most uncomfortable scenes in the movie, despite all the monsters that come out later. I couldn't catch the little doggies, but whatever. Then you can dive into the nitty gritty of Eraserhead, right? The baby, the infamous baby. And I apply the same. Oh, that's a nice shot of it. I apply the same logic, right? Why is the baby so fucked up? And for the longest time, I was just comfortable about thinking about the baby being fucked up because it's just like a horror movie, right? As we have said before, like right now, right? If you are a father, like perhaps this has a completely different meaning to you. Like I could picture yourself not even seeing your offspring, let's call it like that, like not even a baby but like an adult offspring, like an adult like son, daughter, whatever, right? And see them as these monstrous creatures. Because in the end, I don't want to show a person, right? I just want to show. I don't want to show a monster either. I just want to show what it feels like. And even though I've never had a son, a daughter, I never had kids, right? And I never even been close to it. I can feel the discomfort. Like, we can talk about the design of the creature itself, but like it's irrelevant. I put it there, I make it like that, and it achieves its objective. It makes you uncomfortable. No matter which walk of life you have or like which experience of life you have, it makes you uncomfortable at all times. Look at it. Looks like a half-baked chicken or something. So, as we can see, all the middle part of the movie, or the second act, if you want to call it like that, it's super, not super. That's not fair, but it's sort of a straightforward, right? All the images and everything that is going on, you are like, oh, I get it. I totally get it. I'm getting this movie. Mom, dad. And suddenly he gets this umbilical cord, which is like something straight out of Bloodborne, right? He gets two things that come back to break the fake stability that the movie has here. That shit that he gets out of somewhere, right? And the first dream sequence, which is in itself an irony, right? Like, how can you have a dream sequence in a movie like this? But that's what it is, right? You have this first dream sequence that and it comes from the radiator from all places, right? You have the first dream sequence. Did I skip it? I think I skipped it. Heaven, this is heaven. I might have skipped it. I think I. Well, but it has. Yeah, because he's sick. It's really hard to track it on OBS. But if you've seen the movie, well, if you haven't seen the movie, I don't know. I don't think I'm that interesting to be heard of all the time. So in the movie, he goes into this dream sequence where you get this weird. I think I can get the lady. This lady, she has the weirdest cheeks. There you go. She had like flat cheeks, and like I also credited this to be like a monster type scenario, right? Like she's just this weird monster creature. And then I read in some place that somebody said that she's supposed to also represent either sperm or like ovaries, like people that go full into the sexual interpretation of Eraserhead. They really go full into the sexual interpretation of Eraserhead. But you see it, and like the two most common interpretations that I've seen about Eraserhead's dream sequence is the whole sex thing and the whole like freedom thing, right? He's in heaven, like he's like living his oppressive life, right? But to me, as someone that, as I stated, have no connection to any of those things, to me the dream sequence is, well, for starters, it's beautiful. I love it. When she start like stepping on that shit. But to me, the dream sequence is sort of like the most important scene in the movie, right? Before we go into that, let's take another chat break. Claudio again. My personal interpretation would connect parenthood, alienation, and also some kind of postnatal depression to full father and mother, fake stability and a concept. In heaven, everything's alright. To me, just his mind telling him to fucking kill yourself and live your side existence. Right? That's a fair one. Just kill yourself. In when towards the end of the movie, when he sees the light, that's a classic metaphor for just dying, right? But to me, it's not like it's a delirium inside of a delirium or like a dream inside of a dream. But to me, it's the release that I feel when I watch this movie. Like, you are living life regularly, right? Bloop, 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 everything is happening normally. And then you face work of someone like David Lynch, right? You face a work of total creativity, and not to sound cheesy, but it's gonna sound cheesy. You're in heaven. That's how I feel. That's how I feel when a dream gets you out of reality. And like, if it looks weird and if it looks bizarre, it's because it has to be. Why would I escape reality to just reality 2.0 or something like that, right? And the scene, the concept, and how it's told is flexible enough that you can think these sort of things. And like, there's no wrong answers, right? There's no wrong answers. That's sort of part of the brilliance of the whole thing. There's no wrong answers. It's so good. Like the dream scene, she's so awkward. Like this is like extremely well performed, and it's and it's funny because going back to what whatever her name is, when she talked about David Lynch and him giving little directions. Imagine performing this shit, right? But the next scene that I want to talk about, it comes way after this. I don't care about the well, I do care. I'm not gonna give a lot of like importance to the whole him breaking up those sperm types, or like him committing adultery with the lady from across the hall, which is what drives the whole sexual thing in it. And I know it might sound that I'm like avoiding it somehow, that I'm like I could even be ignoring it, but I think it's fair to do so, right? I mean, he clearly has like a sexual desire for like if we see it in that light, under that light, right? And the guy is having like an affair with with his neighbor in front of his like clearly deceased baby. That sounds more like a telenovela than an art expression in my book. That's why, even though I like to ignore or not ignore, but like brush off a little bit the sexual part of it, you can still see the development of the character in it, right? Like this is just how you choose to show an oppressive life. That's just how you want to show it. But that's not the scene that I want to talk about. I want to talk the next most important scene besides the heaven and everything, right? I can find it. Well, the theater the theater part. This is the whole beginning of it, right? When he's watching the unwritten play, right? He literally loses his head, right? His head go boom. Let's play it. His head go boom, and here you go. This is the other really important scene. His head pops, right? These kids pick up the head, takes the head to a type of pawn shop, right? Where he sells the head, and they process like a sample of Henry's brain through some weird machine, and it becomes the eraser of a pencil. this this might be the most important scene in the movie, just because how nonsensical it is. You want to talk about interpretation? Here you go. This is your heaven. This is your exact place. Whatever you were thinking before gets explicitly challenged with this scene. How do you um sort of coordinate or like make this scene work with anything you've seen before? Like if you took the sexual approach, if you took any sort of interpretative approach, how do you fit this scene into it? Even though the scene is so weird, by this point, which is like almost the third act of the movie, by this point you are engaged in the movie, right? You have your own ideas, you have your own perceptions, but the movie suddenly challenges you, and suddenly you become aware, right? Let's try to catch it. That's the pencil thing. Suddenly you become aware that the movie is called Eraserhead because when they took a sample out of Henry's head, they make the eraser part of a pencil. And like the first time I saw this, I was so into the movie that like I just lived it. And that is not something that I do often. Like whenever I'm watching something, I get really obsessed trying to see something in it that I could have some sort of interpretation, that it could have some meaning. But this is like straight up fucked up. Like this is a challenge to anyone that is watching this. You can take the easy way out, like the song "There's no easy way out," and say, there you go, say the exact scene. He makes a line with the pencil. He erases with the eraser on the back, and he goes, "It's good." Before the dude that sort of looks like me but with more hair pays the kid. Then they save the eraser shavings and they throw him into the air. Dude, if that's not poetry, I don't know what is. Right? Is that the conclusion of a dream if I've ever seen one, right? Like I wasn't planning to talk about that when I planned to record today. But yesterday I had what I would call a nightmare. And the nightmare was just me being late to get to the airport. That's it. That was a whole nightmare. Like I don't remember the images. I don't remember who was there. I can't even say if it was like Home Alone type of thing. All I remember was the sensation of like being rushed and like being stressed out because I was late to go to the airport. And then I think about it, and you feel sort of empathy with like Henry. Would he describe that shit after he woke up, right? Would he be able to describe it like, yeah, I dreamed that they took a piece of my brain and it became an eraser that actually erased pretty good, right? You can't do it, but you can try to understand whatever he's feeling, right? It's like that old expression, like a piece of mind, like take a piece of my mind, what I'm thinking at this moment, and whatever he's thinking at that moment is so concentrated, like you can sort of like compress it into a tiny eraser. It's funny because it's a parenthesis in a movie which is highly interpretative, is disruptive, is beautifully crafted. It's basically brilliant because you allow yourself to have that. There are like some movies that they put some random shit in between and it feels so out of place that it just takes you out of the movie. Here's the opposite. Like you are part of the upcoming conclusion, right? Which is basically the last big part of the movie, and of course, another of the. I think I've used the most important scenes way too many times, but it's okay, right? where he finally gets fed up. He gets like that. That scene is so good and so creepy. When he sees the neighbor coming up with this dude, like, look at that dude. Like, as a bald person myself, I do feel a little bit offended that they chose to make the bad guy a bald guy. I mean, and it's not necessarily the bad guy, but like he's clearly this like nasty type of of person. Like he has like the green. Let me see if I can catch it. Like, yeah, I'm nasty. My face is all greasy. There you go. It's so funny. But whatever the case, it serves as a tool, right? It's a setup for the epic climax of the movie, which is the last part I want to talk about, right? Where are you? And this is worth watching. It's great to have like this way that you can share it, right? This is the infamous infanticide scene, right? Dude, this scene is so good. Like, how did they do it with the puppet? It's amazing. Like the baby is clearly panicking, right? And Henry is afraid. And again, by this point of the movie, whatever route you took to think about the movie, it's impossible to escape from it. Like whichever it means, right? Okay, you can see the infanticide here, right? You can see it. You can see perhaps the cruelty, even though Henry has this innocent, disturbed look, like he doesn't know what he's doing, right? Which again, if in fact Lynch did not give him any directions, it's just brilliant, right? And look at the design of the creature. Even if you don't know what the fuck you're looking at, you can feel like the living skin, right? Like the pulsating and disturbing elements of life, right? And there you go. He snips this, I think it's like a cow testicle or whatever it is, right? Immediately gets shocked. And this is a realization that I got while I was doing my Spanish version. So the first time I watched this movie, by the end of it, as I said, I got caught up on the imagery and I just get swept by it. So in the end, I just saw this as a common conclusion. Not a common conclusion, but because there's nothing common about it. But it was just a conclusion. It was a strong act or a strong happening that means a conclusion, right? Before we go into it, Claudia, again, thanks for being here. The fact his brain or thoughts are kind of repurposing to an erasing device is interesting. Yes. And oddly, like captivating. Like that imagery to me, it's incredible. Because at the very least, you could say like, okay, let's make his brain into the writing part of the pen, right? Oh, sorry, of the pencil. If you make his brain into the writing part of the pencil, it's easier to make an interpretation out of it. Oh, these are his ideas. Or like he has so much to think about that you can write something with it. But they make him into the eraser part. But okay, back to the killing of the baby. So this is the realization that I got when I was doing the Spanish version. And it came straight out the image itself that we're looking here. And when Henry kills the baby explodes. Like in an unnatural way. I think it's like, looks like oatmeal or something. Whatever they use is fantastic. And the baby explodes, and it's sort of like dying, like in a really exaggerated way, and it explodes. And the thing that I like about this image, now the last and most recent time that I've seen and thought and think about this movie, is that it's a physical release. The image itself It's a physical release. It's disgusting, and of course it also left for interpretation, because that's the whole deal of this movie. But it's a physical release, like a visual, like explosion of stuff, like popping a pimple. Yeah, like whatever you want to think about this, again, quoting the brilliance of the movie, it's like you can feel the literal visual representation of a climax, which is sort of like this explosion of emotion or ideas, if you want it, right? There Henry is like haunted by this giant, which is also so funny. But it's funny, it's disturbing, it's even endearing in a way, because the baby, it's even kind of cute, of course in a disturbing way, but cute nonetheless, right? And he gets like this explosion. How is not that in your face when like a giant monster baby comes to your face, right? It's amazing. And by the end of the movie, you are like left with only feelings. And that is like the biggest conclusion that I had on my Spanish version. And I couldn't think of it any other way. Like, you see the famous image of Henry. Look at that shot of Henry. We already know, image-wise, that this dust is the dust made out of the eraser made out of his head. What? This is the eraser dust that came out of his head, and now he's in it, being like haunted could be the word, or like being overwhelmed by it, right? But what I wanted to conclude, which I did in my Spanish version, and I still do because I haven't found any other way of thinking about it, is the feeling, right? Like this is not like not a romance, it's not a horror. It's not something that you could directly make a connection with some sort of like I don't know, this create this, or like this image stimulate this, right? But you sort of feel it. You feel the conclusion. You feel the release. And that is just brilliant. I feel it like in when people say this thing about, which is something I don't think it's something you could criticize, but it's something that is always weird when people go like, oh, I feel things with art, right? I feel things with art. And like, oh no, I look at the Mona Lisa, whatever you want to call it, and I feel stuff. And it's funny because especially with modern art, sometimes you see some random piece of shit and people get this, oh, I feel everything, and I feel all of this, I feel so many things, and you don't feel it. You just don't feel it. Like, the closest I've been to like a famous piece of art was I went to what his name, the earless guy, Mono, what's his name? Well, that way. I was the closest to one of his paintings. I went to they were touring some of his paintings in Van Gogh. Thank you, Argon. Greetings from Japan, greetings from Chile. They had some of his paintings there, and I saw one up close. Japan being Japan, it really didn't have like you were like a meter from it. It was super close. Of course, it was behind like a glass, but like it was super close. And I saw a Rembrandt at a museum in San Diego, I think it was in the US. And both of these things, the only experience they gave me, and the only experience like this old art gave me, is the idea of like being transported, right, through time into the historical moment they were creating this stuff. So, but when you see something like this, like Lynch, I think it's universal. It's funny to think about it like that, but it's universal, right? As Claudia said, all feels, right? It's universal. Like, when something is this well crafted, no matter who you are and no matter how you look at it, unless, if we go to the beginning of my talk, right, unless you immediately felt rejected by it, unless that's the case, you will get something out of it. That is sort of like the great brilliance of it. You see the release, you see the process, and the way Lynch does these things, right? Even though, as I said many times by now, even if you didn't adhere and if you didn't fall under the category of like, okay, I'm gonna think about this in a sexual way, and I'm gonna think about this in a parenthood way, I'm gonna think about this in a capitalist criticism way, no matter the way you are like thinking about it, it gives you, might sound even weird, but it gives you a release. It gives you an emotional release. It's like a state of a dream that you are being waking from, right? And you see the ending, like this weird guy creature, like grinding this lever to do something. Like you see his face, he's like, yeah. What the fuck does that mean? Right? And then you're in heaven. Like even if you what was that line in Lord of the Rings, right? When Sam goes through the classic speech about the tales, even if you were like too small to understand it. This follows the same pattern, right? Even if you are like dumb is not the word, but even if you are just some random guy, like you don't know what you're looking at, I think you can appreciate it. And I think that is something that is so Lynch. That's why Twin Peaks was so good. That's why Twin Peaks was so famous. Like, he was the master to put into images ideas. And I don't say this lightly. Because everything is ideas. Everything is ideas. So, like, however you want to put it, right? But he was the master. I think there's ever going to be anyone like him. It was like you had a direct connection to his mind. Like, as someone who loves to talk about interpretations and everything, like, I wish I had the capacity to make myself be known like he did. Nobody could like that. Well, before we hit the hour, another chat break for Argon. I mean, lots of what you're talking about, but specifically about Van Gogh art. What's really touching is knowing the story behind it. That he died thinking his work was worthless and outright bad, and even took his own life because of it. It's really heavy and makes you appreciate his work even more. Besides the art itself, which is gorgeous. Yeah, right. You can sort of patch that to David Lynch, right? Because he wasn't an immediately successful director, but he lived in an age. That's why I began the episode with a quote from The Big Lebowski, right? Sometimes there's a man for a time and a place. Sadly for Van Gogh, he wasn't the man for his time and his place, right? He was like conflicted and oppressed by his own circumstances. But to Lynch, he was in the time and place, the exact time and place to create. Even though he wanted to be a painter, like, and he ended up being a movie maker, like whatever his mind was in the right moment and the right time and the right place to create. And I think that's part of the blessing of it all, right? Like in the end, Van Gogh suffered and like he never thought his work was good. I think that is directly related to him being a painter, which is too close to being an illustrator, and like basically every illustrator seems to hate their own work. I don't think Lynch ever hated his work. I don't think so. That's why he was so happy when he was making it. But anyways, I'm coming up to close to the hour, and I think I need to wrap this up. This new exploration of Eraserhead that comes twofold, right? From me revisiting it in Spanish and for me revisiting it in English. Surprisingly enough, it came up better in English this time. Last episode, my Wish episode, I had some sort of troubles. Translating not is not the word, but making a reinterpretation of what I'd say in Spanish in English. Like even though I think I got the most of the ideas out of it, but with Lynch, it just flows. It's amazing. It's just like I think I made it even make more sense, if that's possible, as a commentary on his art. And I just love the guy. I just love the guy. Think there will be ever no. Well, it's not. I'm gonna sound. That's an exaggeration. It might be in the future someone like him. What do I know? But whatever the case, he was magic. He was magic, and before I start getting too emotional, I think I'm just gonna leave it there because there will never be someone like him. Like the closest you could ever be to someone's inner thoughts and minds in a public way. Like I'm gonna crack open my skull, right? And my subconscious is gonna be there for everyone to see. And somehow everyone is gonna see it, appreciate it, care for it, feel for it, feel touched by it. Isn't that a beautiful thought? This is me. Like I don't I won't explain it to you. I won't explain it to you. I won't give you any sort of like defense. This is me, and people are gonna like it for its honesty rather for its content. That's a unique thing. So one last chat break before we end. I think it depends on how you make the episode. Really, I think rather than later translate your original thought, you should just let your thoughts flow again. A lot of the times, the changing language does bring up ideas you originally didn't have. That's basically what I do. That's why I don't have scripts. I have ideas. I write down ideas. I don't write down scripts, because if I write down scripts, then I don't have the freedom that I want to have. I'm no David Lynch, but if there is one thing I know and believe on, is in the freedom of ideas and the treasures that can come out of it, right? So thank you for listening again to another episode. I could talk about Lynch forever, and I might as well do it another time with another one of his works. It would probably be Blue Velvet, because I love that movie and I have more like horror things about it. That is a horror movie if I ever saw one. So I hope everyone liked it. Thank you all for sharing it. See you next time for Emilia Perez, which is coming, and for the next time in Spanish, which is gonna depend on many things, but it will happen during this week, the next Spanish episode. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and watch David Lynch. He's magic. Goodbye.